Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're listening or watching this. Welcome to the Resistance Broadcast. I'm John. Thank you so much for joining us today. It is our Monday show, the regular pod, TRB, the flagship, whatever you want to call it, the Resistance Broadcast. How's it going, everybody? Thank you for joining us. We have a good show. We're going to talk about the latest in Star Wars news, some optimistic stuff about the future, some legacy actors still going for it, and a lot of other cool stuff. But with me, as always, James and Lacey. What's going on, guys? James, is that the Vision shirt? I can only see the top of it. Is that what you got going on?
Yeah, Ronin Visions. It's one that you can pick up, I think, only at the Disney parks. But it's kind of one of those shirts that, like, you see it and you're like, oh, that's a good shirt. And then, like, you buy it and then, like, you see it everywhere, all over the parks. And anybody who's wearing it, you're like, I know you bought that, like, yesterday.
I can't wait for them to cancel Celebration, and I'm still not going to Galaxy.
Don't say that. Why do you say stuff like that? Don't rig it or jinx
John
it.
just followed with, we have some optimistic things, and then he's like,
I know.
Well, you gotta balance.
Nancy over here.
You gotta balance out the force. No, I'm trying to do the negative jinx, reverse jinx. So
that's not a thing.
Oh yeah. It's called reverse mush or reverse jinx. That's a thing for sure. Yeah.
No way.
Like when like in Revenge of the Sith, the whole time when Obi-Wan's like, Anakin's totally gonna turn to the dark side. It's gonna happen, and then he didn't turn, so it worked out.
I was gonna say he did turn. It's just like,
what is happening?
Your example's so bad.
I don't know. Lacey, what's going on?
Nothing. Excited to talk about Star Wars. Man, did we have a crazy episode of Book of Boba Fett last week. Hope you guys caught the Mando Fan Show last week. If you didn't, you can rewatch it on YouTube. Or listen to us if you want.
Yeah.
I mean, watching's always better, personally.
Yeah.
But I can't wait for this week's episode. I'm so excited. I know we're not going to talk about it at all, but I'm just like so hyped. And I get to do the Mando Minute, which makes me even more hyped.
Yeah.
Filoni time.
I know.
Who knows what's going to happen?
What was the name we came up for them? Favloni?
Filoni Baloney.
No, like him and Favreau together. Favloni?
Was that what it was?
Was that our combo name? I think it was Favloni.
That works for me. Hashtag Favloni. Yeah, so a lot to get into. We have sort of our hybrid episode still cooking here, but we are going to start things off with the news. And later in the show, we are doing Will of the Force. So if you are a patron of the Resistance Broadcast, maybe your topic will be discussed on this episode later. But right now, I'm going to hand it over to my buddy James to dive into the news.
It's the Resistance.
Yeah, a little bit of an update on what Anthony Daniels has been doing. He is currently doing a little bit of C-3PO performance capture for an upcoming project. Now, he didn't say what the project was as when he, took to his Instagram to kind of update us a little bit here. But it's pretty clear that this is probably Star Wars A Droid Story, as Kathleen Kennedy announced about, when was it, about a year ago?
Over a year ago.
What year is it?
What year is it? I don't know.
She announced it during the pandemic, James.
Yeah, exactly. But she said a droid story, and she gave kind of a description of what it was going to be. To quickly quote her, the intersection of animation and virtual effects to offer new opportunities to explore. So it kind of seems now that if that was what they were working on or they had ideas for it now, it's probably falling into production and falling into line. So we get this look of him wearing this outfit, and as he says, finally, an outfit that fits, right? So that's exciting. But I'm gonna shoot it over to you, Lacey. Was there anything that popped out to this? Does droid stories kind of move the needle for you? Are you excited for that? Do we know enough about it, do you think?
Well, I don't think we know anything about it, really, unfortunately. I feel like a lot of these projects are still so secretive, which is, it just kind of sucks, because it's hard to be excited for something if you don't know what it's about. But as for droids, I mean, I love droids. Droids are so Star Wars, you know? Every time you see one on screen, you just get excited because they all have their own personalities and they all have their different skill set. and whatnot. As for Anthony Daniels, he is Star Wars. He's been around for so long. He's one of those iconic characters that you know exactly who he is by his mannerisms. So the fact that he's doing the motion capture is really exciting to me because that's something that they'll always have. Like, yeah. And you know, there are people like Chris Bartlett who does his own kind of version of those droids, and he does a great job. But there's something just about being the original person to do it, kind of like, I'm blanking right now, Peter Mayhew with Chewbacca. Like, Jonas does a great job, but Peter Mayhew is the original Chewbacca. So he's just kind of copycatting those motions and mannerisms while trying to make it his own. So I'm just excited to see him continue doing Star Wars, because we weren't really sure what was going to happen after this, especially after The Rise of Skywalker. Like, is he going to continue on? I know we've said that characters like him and R2-D2 and Chewbacca are never going to go away because it doesn't depend on who's in the suit. But he's definitely, you know, an important part of Star Wars, and I can't wait to see what the project is. I'm sure it's going to be probably more on the kiddie side, it sounds like. However, that being said, you might say Rebels is a kid's show, but they have some deep themes in that show and very emotional moments. Same with Clone Wars, so you kind of never know.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that page, except for the fact that it seems like it's following 3 droids, 2 of which we already know, and that it's not like they're
a new
get
one,
crazy deep with.
Hopefully, it's not like a
anything that
park
they're
droid. I find that we'll get into it eventually, but
yeah,
Disney seems to be throwing more of these like park elements in, which is like cool but not cool. They're like selling you too much. So I hope it's like an actual original character.
Yeah. John, what are your thoughts on, you know, this image, the upcoming droid story? Do you think it'll be too kiddie?
Well, Lacey has me thinking that we're not there yet, but it's a little fearful that we'll get to the point where there's an episode of some show and Han Solo's like giving people tickets to pilot the Millennium Falcon, and these families of 5 are like, I'm going to be the pilot. I'm going to be the pilot. So,
oh, no.
No, I mean, the whole Anthony Daniels thing, like when I did that virtual press conference for the holiday special, and I got to like ask him the question and talk about the legacy of preserving George Lucas's vision for the franchise. He really takes that very seriously, and he feels a big responsibility. And now that, you know, Mark Hamill, we talked about this when Mark Hamill came back, he took over as the longest tenured Star Wars actor by checking back in with the Mandalorian. Now Anthony Daniels is like, I'm taking it back. Now I'm going to be the longest tenured. And we'll see what Mark Hamill does after that, because, you know, who knows what the future is for Luke. I know there's a lot of buzz going around about more Luke coming in The Mandalorian. But, you know, 1976 to now, that's 46 years of playing one character. And I know, you know, people can say, like, maybe he's not even doing C-3PO. It's like, come on, he's doing C-3PO.
He definitely is. He doesn't say no to anything. He seemingly is like, yep.
Oh,
yes.
He's so protective of C-3PO. He loves C-3PO. He will play C-3PO until he's 120 if he can. But I think what I like about this... It's just his head on
C-3PO's body. Like he's aged past his own self and become
just like
C-3PO.
Attack of the Clones. Yeah, just his head. But I think what they can do now, I'm not you know, tech genius with this stuff, but you watch like the gallery and you see like all the stuff they're doing with the AI voice for Luke Skywalker, the facial mappings, and also performance capture. And, you know, maybe they're doing something to capture every movement he does, kind of like they do for those sports video games where they get the batter's stances right, or how the football players play and stuff. They have C-3PO maybe. So like you said, Lacey, to if they wanted to go the CG route with C-3PO in the future, even for live action scenes, they can say that is Anthony Daniels because we mapped that. That's exactly his performance. That's how he walks. That's how he moves that arm. That arm, he moves it a little differently. That type of stuff, like you can fool any Star Wars fan with another person in that suit probably, but there's something about the authenticity of having the guy. And the fact that he's still doing it, I think, is very, very cool. Now, I don't know anything about what Droid Story is going to be like. I think it'd be fun if it was more of along the lines of the family surface level sort of adventures, maybe narrating a tale or something like that. Nothing too crazy, because I don't know that I want to see like C-3PO getting into high action stuff. Like, I still have a hard time watching the scenes in Attack of the Clones where he's like dangling from the droid machine and swinging all over the place, and it got to be a little too much. So, but again, the main thing here is just seeing Anthony Daniels all these years later still that passionate about bringing this character to life for people, and it's a special thing. 'Cause I'm sure when he first put on the suit back in the late 70s, he didn't think in 2022 he'd be still doing it. So it's very cool. And the further we get removed from, the George Lucas era of Star Wars, it's nice to be able to see that some OGs are still getting it done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no telling if this is in fact a droid story, but it just seems pretty likely. The interesting thing here is the description says this epic journey. So I don't think it's going to be something where they're just like, one time we ran into this situation, you know, and then like the next week is like another thing, which seems a little bit more like something that would be on YouTube, like Droid Tales or something, and it's like short little adventures that involve R2-D2 and C-3PO, right? But it's like, it seems, they're saying this epic journey will introduce us to a new hero. And it's like, oh man, it definitely does seem like it's going to be like serialized. Is that the right term? Like every episode like follows where the last one left off kind of thing?
Maybe, or is it a series? Did they say it was a series? Because it might just be a movie, like a special.
It says a special Star Wars adventure for Disney Plus. So you're right. It might be just one single thing.
Because they just did an Ice Age movie that I was like, oh, that could be similar to what they're doing, like little one-shots.
But it wouldn't be a movie because they said very clearly they weren't going to make movies for Disney Plus. So it would have to be like the holiday special.
Could that not change?
Like 40 minutes. No, it absolutely could change, but I would think that they would have said it was a movie.
Right.
Be like the canon version in terms of tone and feel of like the Ewok adventure stuff. Like, it's going to be fun, light, we'll meet some new people, but I don't know how deep it will get. And I don't know that it necessarily needs to. You know what I mean? We have a lot of, like, deep stuff coming.
Yeah, I wonder if they're just going, like, look at WALL-E. Like, it was able to pull this off with so much of the beginning of the movie not even having any dialogue, and yet people still followed it.
That's in my top 3, yeah.
And it was, like, up for awards and everything. So it's like, it's not like it isn't possible to do a story with like 3 droids and introduce us to this new hero, which is obviously going to be a cute droid, I would imagine,
right?
And everybody's going to have all these emotions attached to it, so
protected at all costs. That all the tweets will be that.
So yeah, I would imagine that's probably what we're looking at. But that's a good point. I've always pictured it as a show, and now you're making me think that it is in fact like a special, like a 40-minute to an hour thing. So that's interesting, but enough to not make it, on the YouTube, or like they didn't say we're doing like last year 2020, they weren't saying we're doing another Lego Halloween special. Like that didn't make the cut. Granted, that was probably more of a licensed thing, but still it ended up on Disney Plus. It feels like it's Star Wars. This has to be maybe bigger than that.
There's something about the Star Wars stuff that comes out on YouTube first that feels like they don't care about it as much, or it's more of like a treat than it is something like our storytelling. Like,
I'm still surprised Jedi Challenge didn't end up on Disney Plus and it was on.
I think that had something to do with the pandemic, though. I really do. I think they were. I don't know what was going on with that, but it was supposed to be Disney Plus, or I don't know if we made that up, but my understanding was that it was supposed to be Disney Plus, and then it got put on YouTube. And maybe that was in conjunction with them launching the YouTube Kids channel all of a sudden, and they're like, you know what? We need to launch that thing, and we need to make it big. We don't really think this is going to move the needle one way or another on Disney Plus, so let's just put it here.
It's possible whoever's in charge of live action output on Disney Plus said, you know what, we didn't really love that. We don't know that we want to run that on the service.
Maybe.
Yeah, I hear that as a possibility, but I think it was better quality than some stuff that ends up on Disney Plus.
Yeah, they did a whole set and everything.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
technically right now there's like an Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer that's like a piece of content. It's not like show coming soon, here's the trailer. It's like, this is the content to watch, and it's like a minute and a half, you know.
The funny thing is I wouldn't even call that a trailer. It's like a first look.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's
A
like
very
whatever
old
it was,
first look.
Yeah.
whatever it was, it feels like they're marketing it as a piece of content on Disney Plus and not like this advertisement.
Right.
Remember when we
Interesting.
were like, it was around this time in 2018, and like there was no trailer for Solo yet, and everyone's like, "What is going on?" How come
I
there's no
wasn't
trailer
here,
for Solo
so
yet?
I can't answer this
I
question.
just meant fans. No, I mean
I mean,
fans.
It's
So I'm
always
not saying
been like
just this
that. Like,
podcast.
where's the trailer? Where's the trailer? Where's the
Yeah.
trailer? Right?
And like we're
What's the
months away
name?
from Kenobi.
Remember, what's the name for Rise of Skywalker? That was the big thing. Like, what's the name?
Yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
like, legit, like, nothing for Kenobi yet, and it could very well be like as soon as 4 months away. It's interesting.
Yeah, we need to look back at that.
Don't
whole,
know what's
like,
going
when
on there. Yeah.
when
They might wait
released
till after the Super
Mandalorian,
Bowl.
when they released Book of Boba Fett content, and then start to really like piece that together. 'Cause
Or
I
are
remember
they doing
being-
it on the Super Bowl?
No,
I didn't
yeah,
even
that
think
was
about
talked
that.
about on something else I was listening to, where they were interviewing O'Shea Jackson Jr. and they
Oh,
were
yeah.
talking about how it might maybe Super Bowl, who knows, you know?
Mhm,
Because
'cause they did Solo.
they also brought up the whole thing about him being like, "Let's go trailer."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
he tweeted that. And he was like, "I'm pumped, but like that's proof right there that I have no clue." So when I say
Yeah,
Super Bowl,
right.
it's just as much of a guess as you guys. Yeah. By the way, side note, yeah, I listened to that interview. It was done by the Barstool guys. Jeff D'Lo did the interview with him, and they brought up Star Wars and stuff. So if you want to go check that out, I fell in love with him in that interview. I was like, this is the coolest guy ever, man. He talked about like all of his opinions were my opinions, and he even specifically talked about how he went to go see Dragon Ball in the theater and everything. And I was like, holy crap, man. I think I would get along with this guy. So it's pretty awesome. But he's pumped. He's pumped for Kenobi. I want to move on to our next story though, because we were just talking about Lucasfilm and that whole like Investors Day thing. And one of the things that they brought up at that specific time was not Star Wars related. It was actually more of a Lucasfilm project that was going to be an adaptation of the story. It's called Children of Blood and Bone. I was going to call it and it's not. It's Children of Blood and Bone. And it's kind of an ongoing thing. They made the bid for it. They were gonna work with this other studio, and then the author kind of wanted to have some say in it, and they just ended up kind of letting that expire. So even though it was announced that they were going to work on this, they went ahead and let it expire, and they sold the rights, and now somebody else is going to make the movie.
Paramount,
and
yeah.
Yeah, they're going to work with the author and everything like that. So it's probably, if you're a fan of this particular piece of work, it's probably better that it's out of Lucasfilm's hands now. I don't know. But as the story came out, it was kind of in conjunction with Lucasfilm has just decided that they're going to continue to work on their existing IPs and not break out and try to do a little bit more than they have. They're just going to keep with, things that they've worked with in the past, which is, or they've created, Indiana Jones, lots of Star Wars, stuff like that. So, and Willow, that was the other one that they were like really focused on. So
Yeah.
That's the story right there. John, I don't know if you have something else to add to this. What are your thoughts on Lucasfilm maybe not bringing in new property and new content under their umbrella and really just hammering home the stuff that they've been doing for years?
I think it's great news. I know I get the idea of wanting to branch things out, and I mean, Lucas himself did that a little bit, like Strange Magic and that Pilots movie, The War Pilots.
I've never seen Strange Magic, but I've heard every Reylo fan talk about it.
Yeah,
like numerous
and then
times.
Red Tails, I think, was the pilot one.
Yes, yeah.
But it's kind of like, and I'm not huge on analogies, but it really is sort of like you've been an expert cake maker for 40 years, and then lately you've been having to throw some cakes out because you didn't do that great of a job, or you're taking a little longer to fill the orders, and then you're like, you know what, I'm also going to start cooking baking cookies for the first time. Like I'm not trying to, pile on them here, but they've been having issues even just as recently with Rogue Squadron and stuff with what they're good at doing. So it just doesn't make sense to widen the net and try other new things when you are clearly having issues doing the things that Disney got you for. I think there's something happening, and it seems to be a theme in all these stories we're checking in on, that they're going back to what works. And what works is Star Wars, and honestly, a lot of Star Wars people are familiar with.
Fan service!
And things that branch off that. And you know what? People say fan service is a bad thing. I don't think so.
But I'm saying that's what they keep... I think the things that they've had the most success with has been fan service type moments and nostalgia and like everything else.
Well, yeah, just look at the Spider-Man movie and bringing back all those characters and stuff. Like they call it a multiverse.
Alert. I haven't seen it yet.
2 months, yeah. You didn't know?
No. Spoiler alert.
I forgot you didn't have the internet. I'm sorry.
I can't go to the movie theater, jerk.
Just go online anywhere. Don't pretend. Don't sit here and pretend
I can't go to the movie theater with a brand new baby in a pandemic. Sorry, I can't go see Spider-Man.
And pretend that you don't know what went down, okay?
I don't. I haven't seen the movie.
Anyway, multiverse is this fancy term for fan service. And they've convinced people that it's two different things. It's not.
He's John Spoily now.
Yeah, clearly. I'm a big scooper of things that already happened.
Spoiling rides, spoiling movies for me.
So listen, I think this is a really good thing. I like the idea, they're doing another Indiana Jones. Who knows what happens with that franchise after. Willow, fine. I'm sure I'll check it out. But in terms of Star Wars and seeing the line from, what was this, Hollywood Reporter saying, and yes, many, many Star Wars movies and shows, like we keep also seeing those generic statements that there's a lot more Star Wars coming that we don't know about. So that gets me excited. I think they like what they're doing with Disney Plus, and I think it takes a lot of pressure off them for the theatrical movies, knowing that the fans are getting content without saying, where's the next movie? Where's the next movie? That puts a little less pressure on them to maybe make some changes and do some things with something like a Rogue Squadron. But the meat and potatoes of this being that they're focusing, going back inward and stuff like that, I like all of that. I saw people saying that they were upset that they're diverting back to what's familiar. I couldn't disagree more. I think this is a great choice for them, and is the best thing possible for Lucasfilm is to do what you're good at and make sure you're doing that right before you try to even widen that net a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know though, because I think in the end I agree with what you're saying, and I think that's probably the right thing. But I will say, when I first read this story, I did have the other side of that reaction, and I thought it was interesting to me that they were like, "Hey, we're going to expand ourselves," like almost like a director saying, "I'm going to stop making, action movies. I made like 5 action movies, and I'm really good at it, but I'm going to broaden." And everybody goes, "I like this director. I want him to make more movies. I want him to open up and be better at, growing his talent, or an actor, doing different types of movies, or a football quarterback who only passes. I'm gonna open up my passing game, or my handoff game, or whatever.
Sports.
Sports. I don't know, but I'm saying, like, you want somebody to grow and succeed and open up their ability to do more stuff. And when you later find out that they're like, they're still passing the ball, and then they do an interview and they're like, "Yeah, I'm just going to go back to passing all the time." Like, it's like, oh, I mean, you're good at passing. That's great. I love that, and you'll probably be one of the best passers of all time. But it just kind of sucks for people that maybe were interested in something that they love. Like, if you want to root for Lucasfilm, you would want to see them succeed on like multiple branches. Like they have Star Wars, and like years down the line, say they did branch this out. They did Children of the Blood and Bone and this other one and this other movie, and they created all these new things. You can look back at the legacy and say they had all those things and Star Wars and Indiana Jones, kind of thing. And now it just feels like, well, they're just going to have to like drill in the legacy of just having Star Wars and Indiana Jones and, and some of these other properties. It's not a bad thing, and I agree with your points, but I will say that was my first initial take on it. Is I was like, oh, I thought they were gonna like grow, but they're going to focus inward, and it's not a bad thing. But Lacey, I guess I'm not saying I think that now, because I think John brings up really good points, but where do you land on both of those sides?
So first of all, I think it's interesting that the detail was added that the reason that they moved away from the project is because the author wanted more say in the creative process and say in what's going on with the, I believe it's a book to movie. I apologize to people that are fans of this. I don't know of it. So it's a book that they're turning into a movie. I find that interesting because when we look back on projects that have had issues, whether it be Kenobi, whether it be Solo, whether it be whatever, it's always so-and-so wanted a say and they didn't like that. They wanted to change something and Lucasfilm didn't really like that. Now I'm going by obviously rumors. We don't know firsthand that's the case, but it seems that is a consistent thing that keeps happening with Lucasfilm, is that they want more control over things and they're kind of like, okay, you have a great story, you have a great pitch, you have a great idea, we'll take it from there. And once you kind of overstep that into like, hey, I'd like to have a say, they're kind of like, we have other things we got to do. I also think that's what's playing into this, the prioritizing part, is going kind of off of what John was saying. You gotta go back to the basics because they've had so many issues with certain projects. Now, I think they've been super successful in everything that they're doing, but there is a good chunk of people and or fandom or general public that maybe didn't like one movie but liked a different movie, might liked this but not this, might be more fans of one character over another. So they want overall to have, keep consistently making like Force Awakens type or Rogue One type successes where they're making all this money and everybody likes it. So if, everybody wants that. Yep. So when you have a project, when you had consistent projects, though, when you look at Solo, you look at Last Jedi, you look at The Rise of Skywalker, now with Book of Boba Fett, where you have, it's kind of half and half, where you have some people that really, really love it and some people that don't. There's kind of the successes we've seen so far have been those moments where Luke Skywalker returns or the nostalgic stuff, which I get. We're in a pandemic, that times are hard, people are struggling, they want to feel good. And what do you do when you want to feel good? You go back to good times, good memories, good moments in your life. So people are being drawn to those things, and I'm sure Favreau's right in there with us, where he wants to go back to his childhood, which he said that was the point of this project to begin with. So I'm not surprised that they're going to stick with what they know and kind of fine tune it and keep going with that. I guess my question is, what falls into that bucket of new? Is that Rian Johnson? Does Rian Johnson fall into that bucket of new outside of the IP conversation of like what they know? Clearly Taika doesn't, but Rogue Squadron's already having issues, and that's kind of outside what they've known so far. And again, it seems like that's another conversation of creative control versus having a say in the project, storyline type stuff. I'm just interested to see what happens, but I know that my initial question, James, going back to what you asked, was what falls into this bucket of Star Wars IP of what they know and what they're going to go with and what things they're cutting. Like, do those Star Wars but I'm saying, do those Star Wars projects that are newer fall outside of this stick with what you know type, we're going to stick to Star Wars, or do you think that includes all of Star Wars?
I just took it as they're not going to
do anything outside of Star Wars
IPs. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. So yeah, that rambling was my thoughts.
No, I mean, that makes
and I
sense.
do know what happened to Spider-Man. Before anybody freaks out and yells at John online, I do know because people are mean, and I knew within I think 2 seconds of the movie premiering, it was all over the internet. So
the movie came out last year.
Again, I haven't been able to go to the movie theater yet, John, and they don't have it on Disney Plus yet.
It's not that. It's just you just admitted you knew. So what are we saying here? You go online.
You're saying last year. We're in January.
That's the joke. Good Lord.
Your jokes are terrible. Go ahead, James.
I haven't seen Spider-Man either, so.
Hey, see?
neither have I.
Oh my God.
Anyway.
You spoiled it for yourself then, John.
Yeah. I forget where we were on this. I was going to say, I liked your point of saying that it felt like it was, as soon as they were in contention over control, Lucasfilm said no, like we're not giving up our control, which I think is one of those things, like, I don't know if that's like a Lucasfilm thing or not, but that was kind of what people said was the problems with the prequels, is like there was too much control there and they didn't go loose with it. Now, that being said, I don't really know where that falls in with like other studios, the big one being Marvel, right? Does Marvel pick creators and let creators be creators, or do they pick creators and then tell them this is how it's going to be? And it's like, I imagine it's probably a good balance of both on Lucasfilm and the MCU. I imagine they work pretty well with these creators, but I think as an overall, like if you're going to let the success dictate it, I think people look at Marvel like, oh wow, they're like, they have a plan, but they let people be creative or whatever. And Lucasfilm's very like, this is the plan and you're never going to deviate from that kind of thing. That's the outside appearance. But it's like, we really don't know what that collaboration looks like behind the scenes.
Yeah, and it's tough because you hear, from Rian Johnson, just as an example, Rian Johnson, he was in full control. Like, that story is his story. He made those decisions and they went all for it. And they got a half and half reaction to it. Then you have Rise of Skywalker, which seemingly from behind the scenes was all these studios had input. JJ had input. Chris Terrio had input. All these other people had input. And then that was half and half. So it's like, you do and you don't, catch-22 type thing. It's like, if you give them more control, that people don't like it. If you don't give them more control, people don't like it.
I'm just thinking like what sometimes is considered control. Like, hey, we're going to let you do whatever you want. And it's like, well, I'm going to walk up there, I'm going to hit a home run and bring everybody home and we're going to get 4 runs. It's like, okay,
maybe
that's exactly what we were thinking.
Like more room to grow type thing. Yeah.
But if somebody has this like out of the ordinary plan, they don't let them be that. They're going, nah, go out there and hit home runs, like do our plan kind of thing. I don't know why I have so many sports analogies tonight. I feel like those are probably like the easiest for people to understand.
They're all like spot on too, like right out of ESPN.
Yeah, I know. I can see like all those 4 guys wearing suits sitting behind the desk all saying exactly what I'm saying. So it just
someone needs
they're just
to
nodding
lift
with their
you.
mic, like they're holding the mic.
Yeah.
Someone needs to cut from you to like one of those desk shots of people just nodding, like cutting together a scene of you talking at the desk.
I know a little bit of it because I watched Ted Lasso and he was on one of the guys was on one of those shows. So I'm like, oh, I kind of get it. They're giving their opinions. All right. No, it's interesting, but if you're looking, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing for the actual piece of content, maybe you wanted to see it into Lucasfilm. It's not going to happen, but maybe over here, you'll like how the author had a little bit more control. And again, that's another quick thing too. Like sometimes when the authors get involved, it doesn't work. So it's like maybe the author wanted to do stupid things like in 50 Shades of Grey and they're like, no, yeah, we don't want to do that kind of thing. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I haven't seen that yet, James.
No, I'm just, you know
John,
what I'm talking about though, right?
Idiot. I've seen those movies. Those movies are meh. But
because the author came in and was like, I know exactly how this is supposed to go down and took control over everything. And everybody was like, this is awful. And
it might be one of the scenarios where the author comes in and goes, oh, I didn't think of this. Like kind of like Monday morning quarterback, another sportsing reference.
Sportsing.
They that they go back and they go, oh, I wish I changed this in the book and I didn't, like, certain authors who will not be named saying certain characters should have ended up together, or like this character's this and this happened to this character, and you're like, no, that's not what happened in the book, but they wanted it to happen.
Yeah.
Had the opportunity to be the next Godfather and they ruined it.
One more thing we wanted to talk about here is that there's going to be some new Star Wars games. So we finally got a little bit of an update on what EA is up to. And Respawn Entertainment specifically too. It was kind of this surprising post where they were like, hey, that Fallen Order sequel, the Jedi series, we are in fact making that. That is happening. They didn't give an update, but they said updates coming soon. And they talked a little bit more about how there's going to be a new first-person shooter style game, I guess moving away from Battlefront, and also another game that is more of a strategy game, which I would like to hear some examples of like how, like what are they picturing when they're saying strategy game. but it's quite interesting if you look at some of the details on StarWarsNewsNet.com about, who's in control of this and what types of games they've worked on in the past. So you can kind of paint a picture of maybe what we're going to see, but it is, it's the update on that side of the frame, even though we know that they've since lost their exclusivity. And there's other companies that are also working on games as well. So, I don't know, Lacey, you are probably the closest to games. I think we say that every time, but
it's funny. I really haven't played.
Not, but
yeah, the only game I've played recently is Tetris on my Nintendo Switch. I'm really lacking in the gaming. It's
you
just
have
like,
a Nintendo Switch?
I do. One of the new ones, the OLED ones, the ones that just came out.
That's the new. That's like,
I hunted it down from GameStop. It was this big thing. I won't get into it.
PS5 too.
Oh, really?
4.
Oh, he's got a 4.
Whatever.
4.
But
My
that being
latest is
said,
a 3.
that being said, I love Battlefront. It's probably my favorite Star Wars game. When I do get a chance to play it, it's such a good time. I'm terrible at it. I used to be really good at Halo, really good. And I'm not just saying that. In college, I was really good. However, now I suck. I'm past the age of being good at video games, I guess. Just kidding. But that being said, I'm really excited about the first-person shooter. When I saw that, I was I did a little yes, because those are my favorite kind of games. I like just playing crazy online multiplayer first-person shooter games where you play against people and they yell at you and you get to shoot them.
Yeah.
Run around. Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to.
Do you have any idea what you might be picturing when you hear this strategy game?
I feel it's probably one of those my games my husband plays. He plays Age of Empires and stuff where it's strategy build games where you build
but those
up.
Are mobile games and stuff.
No,
right?
He plays on the PC. So it's I'm blanking on games that have been around forever, but he plays Age of Empires where you build up towns and you have certain different types of
Minecraft?
Not Minecraft. No, this is more of a strategy-based game where you build buildings and you're building up kind of your map against other teams, and then you have different.
You're trying to
Risk,
and you have a factory that builds soldiers or ships or something.
And you have to make choices. You have wood, which converts to money, which converts to certain things. So if you have a bunch of certain StarCraft,
shouldn't that be
that's the word I was looking for. StarCraft, yes.
Oh, Shouldn't that be a Thrawn game then? That sounds like it should be a Thrawn game or something.
Well,
it could be cool.
Not saying that it isn't, but I would imagine it's probably Empire versus the Rebellion. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
But then they might also go into the same thing that the Battlefront series does, where they're oh, it's the Confederacy versus this, and the First Order versus. So
and certain people have certain strengths, certain teams. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's funny to me though because don't get me wrong, StarCraft was and still is very big, but it's that was for a very specific time, and to hear that a game would be a new Star Wars game coming out that's similar to StarCraft, I'm really?
Tons of people play those games though. I'm telling you, Matt plays them. He plays it every night.
I know, but it I don't know, doesn't it seem so strange in the era of everybody's
it's a very
playing,
90s
Uncharted
thing.
Or something? Yeah.
Yeah.
And we still can't seem to get one of those games, although you could say Jedi Fallen Order is similar in that sense.
The new one might be, because they're doing a new... Oh, no, Jedi Fallen Order is the new action-adventure game.
Yeah, I mean, there's still... There's other games that they're working on that we've heard about numerous times, But I don't know. It always feels like one of those things, I don't believe it, or I don't follow the game stories until they come out, except with Jedi Fallen Order. That was the only one that I'm this game makes sense to me that it's going to have a sequel. We're just waiting for the sequel.
Yeah, people are pumped for that game.
Yeah, and it's interesting too. I want to throw it out there too. John, I don't know if I've actually even gotten to you, so I feel bad. I'll throw to you with this. Do you think that this announcement of Jedi, the next Jedi series game, as we've talked about, has anything to do with maybe that loose connection that we saw in Book of Boba Fett on last Wednesday?
Interesting.
The BD droid?
Yeah, I mean, like, do you think that was like the announcement was somehow timed with when they knew this was going to be shown? I mean, I know that it's kind of a stretch to put those two together, but I didn't know if like they were like, hey, we want this announcement to be a little bit stronger. Oh, well, you know, we're including this droid here. Maybe there will be a lot of tweets around the idea of the game and the Fallen Order, and then what is Fallen Order? You know, maybe it all just kind of like vibes together, and people are talking a lot about
I don't know
possible connections or cameos in the show.
Yeah, I'm really pretty removed from video games in general, let alone Star Wars video games. Because games are they're getting harder and harder to play, in my opinion, and I'm getting worse and worse at video games.
It's
so
weird
like
that you say that, because I think the concept for video games has been that they're getting too easy.
Well, I think they're easy in the sense where because you could save your progress, but in terms of just how overwhelming some of the environments are, like on Squadrons, I was like getting anxiety. Like everything I was looking at like just looked chaotic. It looked like basically when the ship moves out of the way at the beginning of Revenge of the Sith and you see just utter madness in the sky, that's how I feel when I play these Star Wars games. And I'm just like, can I just get the Lego games and play that? So
yeah, I don't know. I understand that with Battlefront or what you were just talking about, Squadrons, but like I don't know. Maybe have you tried Fallen Order, where it's a little bit?
I
more
still
like,
haven't tried Fallen Order.
We need to go to that door. Walk over to that door right now, and if you fall off, we'll just use the Force and put you right back where you started. Like
his voice.
It's just like it feels like some of these games, like that's kind of been the concept for the last 20 years, that games have gotten like if you die, they just like put you back, and there's not really any loss there to like, oh, I have to start over. What the voice like? Go find the scroll and then use the scroll to talk to the witch. Like
the witch over there who's in blue.
Wait, is there a narrator?
She'll give you a sword and then you can level up.
Is there a narrator? Or you just making that up?
No. I'm saying that's like the.
We got to make a video.
Like,
we're creating a lot of videos
has like
today,
a character
apparently.
that's like the person that's telling you what to do. Like
we need to take
and they turn away. They turn away when they're done
to
talking to you, and then you go up to them again, and they're like I said.
Yeah. Aren't you gonna go on a mission? Like or whatever.
We need to get gameplay of Fallen Order and have James do a voiceover of it, and just put that on our channel, and then get it taken down.
I actually
copyright
think.
Infringement.
So there is a character. It's like the pilot character that usually is telling you where to go. Like once you jump off the ship and you're walking somewhere.
For Halo, it's like Cortana, who's constantly telling you, like, "Hey, don't go that way."
Like the,
hey, maybe you should stay on track.
See if you can find a warthog around here.
James, you can narrate the next Star Wars animated series. And be like, the galaxy divided.
Yeah.
Rebel troops had their backs against the wall.
It's always phrased like that, though. It's like, see if you can find this very specific thing. It's usually by a tree. Like,
yeah. It's cool. Bring on more Star Wars games. I'm not that impassioned about it, so and like you, James, I don't keep up too much with we're at this stage of making this game. I'm just like, all right.
Yeah, when it's out, it's out. Yeah.
I'll check it out and that's it. But that's all I got on video games.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much it for the news that happened this week. But there were a couple other things just that had to do a little bit with like Hasbro. We kind of want to talk about them. Number one is that they did unveil a new vintage collection Boba Fett, which is that I think it's 3.75, a smaller character that's in the packaging that looks like the original Kenner and stuff. And the character is designed to look like the one that we saw in the Mandalorian season 2, so that's kind of cool if you're looking forward to that. And this is in conjunction with Lucasfilm extending their deal with Hasbro. So, I was actually doing something recently for my wife where she like sent me a game or something, and I saw Milton Bradley on it, and I was like, this has to be like a remake of a game, because I haven't thought about this name of a company in a long time. From Milton Bradley,
right?
Yeah. And I like looked it up and I was like, yeah, of course. It was absorbed by Hasbro like years ago. And Hasbro just owns like the toy market. It would be kind of crazy, I think, at this point for Lucasfilm to not extend their deal with Hasbro. But, as they said in the in the announcement, they've had a long relationship with the company, and they're hoping to continue to grow, and proud to deepen their relationship and collaborate with the Disney team as well. So
that's what makes it a little dangerous, though, because
you think
if you get so comfortable and so stagnant and like you're buying up the competition, the quality is going to automatically go down because you're not fighting against someone else. And if you just feel comfortable in your station, that's why you're getting these repaints of all these helmets, these redos of these action figures.
But I think that goes with what I'm saying is like, there's who else is going to do them on the level that they can do them, And then I'm sure there are companies, but
I was hoping Lucasfilm was going to go to another company, honestly, and I'm not even a big collector. I just think a change of pace, like get someone hungry in there, like Hasbro's
or
been,
let more
been
than one person
forever.
make stuff, because Figure Arts in Japan makes beautiful figures, like more beautiful than Hasbro's. Like they
or the
are
Hot
so
Toys
awesome.
Sideshow,
yeah.
Or maybe they feel like
can't
they
get them
do.
here.
Maybe they're like, Hasbro is just one of our things, so we're signing up with them so that they can continue to, like, all of their meetings are the same. They're like, oh, what do we got this year? Let's see, Black Series.
Well, I mean, one
the same.
example would be they had a Boba Fett that came out over the summer, and then they just released one where he takes his helmet off, and you can get the one with the helmet off. So people are like, okay, you literally just sold us this exact same figure over the summer with
so
you
far
can't take its helmet off.
on stuff like
that's not
imagine
their
being a
fault,
kid.
but yeah.
No, imagine being a kid and you watch Star Wars and you're like, oh, I want a Grogu figure and I want a Queel figure and I want to play with them. And they're like, see you in 2 years, kiddo, when you don't like toys anymore.
And you can't find them anywhere. They're impossible to find. The good ones, good luck.
You guys sound like you're describing the toys in 1977. You can't find them anywhere. And like they just send you a note that says see you in 2 years.
Well, they cancel a lot of orders. I know Walmart does all the time. Like they sell these exclusives through different distributors from Walmart to Amazon to Target. And the thing is a lot of these exclusives wouldn't happen without these people backing them, which makes sense. But it's just such a difficult landscape now to be a collector. And not only that, it's super expensive now. It's just the way it is. I think it's tough to constantly be spending money on $26 figures. Like I myself am now like, okay, I'm picking and choosing. If there's one I want, I'll get it. If not, then it is what it is. I'd love to collect everything. It's just I can't afford to. And a lot of people can't. And you have this and you have books and you have video games. It's not cheap being a Star Wars fan. And I think a lot of people invest money where they care the most, obviously. But yeah, no, Hasbro figures are not cheap. And with the way the Rancor figure went in the fall, I'm interested to see what their next HasLab's going to be because it failed. I wonder if they waited and did a Book of Boba Fett Rancor, if it, came with the Danny Trejo figure instead and stuff, if it would have succeeded compared to the one that they did. Now you're talking to someone that loves the Rancor, but I think people were more excited about this one than looking back at that one, but it was also super expensive.
Yeah, that's true. That's the thing. That's the biggest thing there. People are like, oh, what?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
just
it almost
yourself.
made it.
You're a big company.
But it didn't. Yeah. Well, that being said, that rounds out Resistance Report this week. We do want to get to our next section, which I'm going to toss it back to you, Lacey. What do we got?
Yeah, so guys, it's time for the Patreon pod race. So there are lots of ways you can support us. You can like this video, comment, subscribe, follow us on all the audio platforms like Spotify. Thank you guys so much for reviewing the show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, which now we have, I believe, over 200 reviews, which is crazy. Yeah. We really appreciate it. You can follow us on Twitter at RBATSWNN or on Instagram at The Resistance Broadcast. But if you want more than this show, you want not instant, but weekly mini episodes and stuff like that, mailings, whatnot, live streams, you can head over to patreon.com/resistance broadcast. Starting at only $2 a month, you support this show and what we're doing and what we plan to do this year, which is really exciting. Fingers crossed about Celebration, but all the content that's coming out with the way things are going just right now with Book of Boba Fett, that's what we're expecting to do for every new show that comes out. But yeah, so this is the part of the show that we let generals and spice runners take part. So first I'm going to thank them. So thank you to our generals, Carmelo, Andrew Staley, Jeremy Myers, John Reese, Jetta Rosewater, Paul Olson, Oliver Lewis, Frank Grande, Darth Hurricane, John Charlton, Nick Kratz, Christian Morales, Brian Smith, Matt Chitty, Nathan Shank, Danny, Mike Rumore, and Val Trichkoff. And welcome, Mike, by the way, who's a new general. Thank you so much. Spice Runners, David Probus, Neil Shaw, Double C Chris, Kendall Gelnar, Ryan Wara, Dave Hornack, Micah Harrison, and Thomas Hennessy. Thank you guys for being extra spicy as our Spice Runners. This week we have General Nick Kratz. Welcome. And we asked him, as a new dad, how do you think being a father will change how you look at Star Wars? So, Nick, take it away.
Hey, TRB. Hope everyone's doing well. Last week, my wife and I were blessed to welcome in a baby girl to our family. We're just super excited to share Star Wars with her. And just thinking about watching it and sharing something that I value and that we love so much with children is just something I'm really looking forward to. I'm hopeful that by the time she's 7, 8, 9 years old, that we have much more content, a lot more TV shows, and a lot more movies that we can just share those experiences together.
Nicely done, Nick. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. John, what do you think? Well, now, I mean, both of you are fathers yourselves. So, John, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good answer. It's similar to how I feel. You're just kind of... I can't wait to one day be able to share this, with my kids. Because with Star Wars, it's a little different than maybe a Pixar movie where you can visually stimulate them. They need to understand what's going on. So you got to be a little older for that. So I can see what you're saying. Like maybe she's 7, maybe she's 8, maybe she's 9. I can't wait with all the content they're doing to be able to maybe watch new stuff with her and catch her up on all this stuff. And it's a very cool thing that I look forward to experiencing. So as you were giving your take on it, I was kind of relating to you pretty well there, Nick. So great job as always. Congrats again. Thanks for all your support. You're the man, and I'll talk to you soon, bud.
James?
Yeah, huge news. Very excited. Congratulations. And I think you're dead on too, because like my son right now is 4 and he still doesn't particularly seem interested in it. There's been a couple things that pop out to him, but I think people have always, I feel like I've heard the age 5. But I'm like, man, he's right on the edge of being 5, and I don't think that's there yet. I think you got to be 7, 8, or 9, somewhere in that range, before the stories actually start to like click. It's like, oh, I understand why this is important. It's not just like Luke Skywalker is a hero. It's like, oh man, he went through a lot of stuff, kind of thing. I think you need to like kind of be a little bit older to get it. So I look forward to still be doing the show when, that time rolls around. But yeah, congratulations. Thanks for being a general and good pod race.
Nick, congrats. I'm right there with you, new baby girl. So this is super exciting. I know I personally am like, I can't wait for the moment that I get to share this stuff with her, but I agree. It's probably going to be later. I myself found Star Wars, I think when I was like 6 or 7, probably 6. Like James said, I think that's the age that you kind of start to connect with characters and recognize things. Like, yeah, you can pick out characters and name them, but like you don't connect to the stories that way until you're a certain age, like 1st or 2nd grade for me at least. However, my baby did watch Book of Boba Fett this morning with me.
Oh, nice.
She was watching it. Nice. She was just like, when he was fighting the people at the beginning. So she has no idea what's going on. She probably just sees lights and colors, but
she's like, where's Boba Fett?
It made me laugh. Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much for being a part of the Resistance. You were awesome. And now we're going to head to John.
All right. Did you see what I sent to Nick on our Patreon Discord? I said, congrats.
Oh, nice.
That's nice, right? All right. Now it's time for Will of the Force.
I fear nothing.
All right, so you submit questions to us on Patreon. Sometimes we create our own, but lately, because we've been doing this hybrid show, we want to give extra love to our patrons, and you sent them in on patreon.com/resistancebroadcast, and it's kind of like a will they, won't they sort of thing. You know the drill by now, I'm sure, so let's get into it. The first one from our newest general, the Drum Jedi, Mike Rumore. Mike, what is happening? Mike submitted a question that is, will Boba Fett's palace become a sanctuary for the scattered and hidden culverts of Mandalorians in the Outer Rim? Ooh, that is a good question. 2 episodes to go of Boba Fett. We'll see. Lacey, what do you think?
This is actually a great idea, Mike. Thanks for the question. I'm going to say no, because the 2 that we saw in the Book of Boba Fett, the Armorer and Paz I'm messing up his name.
That's it.
They were very adamant that if you didn't follow the creed, then you weren't a part of their little crew. It's like, you can't sit with us, mean girls. Like, you can't sit with us. So, I don't think that's going to happen. Unless it's like other Mandalorians like Bo-Katan who doesn't care and just wants to be in like a really sick palace with a Rancor. So I'm going to say no, they will not.
All right. James, how about you?
I'm also thinking no. I when I read it, I thought, oh, that's really interesting because I think there's some speculation right now, like maybe Boba Fett is someone who could be a contender for taking over. You know, and it would be interesting, but I don't know. I just kind of get the vibe that like Jabba's palace is not a place that is the right spot for it. I don't know. It's something, just a feeling, but I think you bring up a good point that it possibly could be. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see it.
All right. I'm gonna go no. The Boba Fett reason being a big one. He takes his helmet off all the time. The armor is not a fan of that. All the new followers of the Creed aren't a fan of that. There are different versions of Mandalorians out there who believe different things, as the species of Mandalorians kind of went beyond the planet at this point, and everyone kind of started writing their own version of it, it seems. But I'm going to lean towards no. I think there's other plans in place for what's going to happen with that palace. I'm not sure what they are, but I don't know that it's going to become the new, like, Mandalorians are going to be like, yeah, we're Tatooine, that's where we want to be. We want to be on Tatooine. So I'm going to say no there. All right, next one, Dave. Indie Dave. What's up, Dave? Will there be an animated series during the time period where Luke traveled the galaxy searching for histories and artifacts of past Jedi and Sith, James?
You know I say yes. This has been something that I've been pitching for a very long time. I don't see... I can hear some of the arguments, but like it just makes perfect sense to me. Mark Hamill, history of voice acting. It's a way to bring him back easily, keep him involved, similar to the Anthony Daniels thing we were talking about earlier. And this is just an absolute ripe area of like Luke, with the Jedi Order and teaching, and maybe a young Ben Solo, Grogu involved, like stories and him discovering how did he get, like, the Clone Wars filled in the gap that maybe the prequels were unable to kind of deliver. So it's like, how did this Luke become this Luke? We needed something in between to tell us that story. Like, there's so much there that I feel like could really ripen Star Wars in this area. I say, yeah, it's gonna happen. They got to do it.
Right on. Lacey, what do you think?
I would love to see this, and I love Luke Skywalker, and I want to see it. I don't think they will right now. I think I said that the Tales of the Jedi I thought was kind of more of like an anthology thing where they're going to focus on a couple different Jedi, and it lets them have like an episode about like who they are and what they're about, or special adventure they went on. I just think right now with Luke Skywalker, they're being very protective and or particular in where he's being featured, and right now it's kind of the Mandalorian adventure timeline. I think they're going to leave it at that for now, so I'm going to say no.
All right, cool. I'm going to say yes. Just because of that theme, I feel is starting to shift in the tide a bit, where they're like, let's harp on the familiar and what people like. And
That's a good idea.
There is a 30-year time gap there. I'm not sure when they're going to choose to do it. What 5-year gap? Is it immediately after Return of the Jedi? Is it in the middle? Is it going to be like teenage Ben Solo? I think that's the thing that I'm curious which the way they go with it. But I think eventually it does happen. And curious to see how soon and who takes over animation, because I think Filoni has clearly moved on from that aspect of the role. So
right.
All right, last one here. Matt Ham, new. What's up, Matt? Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being part of the Resistance, man. Will we see Boba Fett finally get his revenge for his father's death with a Force lightning scarred old Mace Windu, played by Samuel L. Jackson, perhaps off-world? I'm gonna say no. Mace Windu's dead, guys. I think there's a lot of stuff going around with these characters who we thought were dead coming back. Boba Fett obviously being one of them, but some characters I think are dead, and I think Mace Windu is one of them. I know there are a lot of people hoping for a bit of a return there, but at this point, Samuel Jackson's getting into his mid-70s. I think he's even winding down his involvement with Marvel a little bit. I don't think he's about to reignite the engines at this point and come back as Mace Windu, even an older Mace Windu. So I think he dead. So I'm going to say no. Lacey, what do you think?
I'm going to say no as well. I think he's dead. That's my quick answer. Because I think it's like you've said everything that I was going to say.
James.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you guys. I think it's one of those things like, I agree with you until the day they announce it. And the day they announce it, I go, that's fine with me.
Yeah.
Okay. They're going to do it. It's going to be cool. They're going to bring him back or Boba Fett's going to go to this place and he's just going to be there. And it's going to be like the end of Book of Boba Fett season 2, episode 5 or whatever. And we're going to be like, what? We're just going to lose our minds. Because you're saying he's older and stuff, but I mean, it's not that we didn't get that with like an older Luke. We got that with an older Ian McDermott. You know, like you can have a character that's very Force-centric and he's controlling the situation and all this other stuff. And I don't know, maybe he's lost his Jedi ways and stuff. And I feel like they could really play with that. Maybe he just quit like altogether and that's why he's been gone, you know, but Samuel Jackson wants to do it. He's said multiple times, you know, over the years that he's not dead. He wants to come back and it's all just a game. But if they announced it, I would be pumped. I don't know that I want it to happen, but I think I kind of do. So yeah, I'd be okay if it happened. Yeah.
All right. Well, that is it. Thank you for those questions. Thank you to everybody who continues to submit topics on Patreon for Will of the Force. We'll probably get it fired up again next week and all throughout the run of the Book of Boba Fett as we're doing the Mando fan show on Wednesdays into Thursday. But thank you to everybody who has been watching and listening and being a part of TRB. We appreciate you very, very much. As Lacey said, make sure you're subscribed on your preferred platform and share us with a friend. Word of mouth is what helps us grow, and you're a big part of that. So thank you very much to everyone who just takes us in to your earbuds every week. We appreciate that very much. Make sure you go to StarWarsNewsNet.com every day for your Star Wars news, reviews, editorials, information, and more. You can find me on Twitter at Johnny Hoey, StarWarsNewsNet.com, and my movie podcast, Just Like the Movies. We just did Howard Stern's Private Parts last week, and look forward to what we're doing in the future there. James, how about you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Myra Trunks.
Lacey.
People could find me on Twitter and Instagram at Lacey Gillerin, and this Wednesday doing the Mando Minute. I'm so excited.
Yes. Oh, that should be a good one. Look forward to that.
It's probably not going to be a minute.
Spoiler alert, yeah. But yeah, thank you, everybody. We will be back with you Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Mando Fan Show, and check Lacey's Mando Minutes. The content machine rolls on, but until Wednesday, as always, we'll see you around, kids.
I try to make it a minute. It doesn't.